Finish what you started, human.
Wow, this is interesting. So, I saw Crystal from Fibre Artsy do a recent tag video, like literally just then. I thought it was a really interesting one. It's called Finish the Book Tag. Finish the Book Tag. And I thought, oh, I'll do that. That sounds like I haven't really done those kind of questions before. So I thought I would do that tag. And then I thought I should credit the original person who created the tag. So I'll go and find out who that is. So I had a delve, and I kept linking to other videos, kept going back and to like previous video, and then previous video, and then previous video. Went for all sorts of different people. Some I didn't know, which was really cool. So I've discovered lots of new booktubers from going back and back to the past of this, the history of this tag, and then some that I knew. And there was like Steve Donahue, who obviously posts a lot, and I watch a lot of his videos. And then you've got Jay Shea, who I got to Jay Shea. And I'll link to all these videos. When I got to Jay Shea, I thought, oh, I stopped watching his videos for some reason, and I like his videos. And then, as I was trying to find his tag for this, to see if he was the original person, I found so many different books that either I can relate to, or that I've read, or that I definitely need to see his review of it. So that was kind of interesting. So anyway, eventually, Jay Shea actually was the first person that I found to actually post the original creator of the tag, and then that video didn't exist. It's been taken off. So I don't know if that's because I didn't investigate further to see if it's because the channel's not going anymore, or if it's just that video that's not going anymore. So obviously, if it's someone that decided not to do this anymore and deleted his account, then hopefully that wasn't because of a bad reason. You know, someone attacked him or something. But hopefully it's just he didn't want to do it anymore and didn't want to keep the videos up. Let's just assume it was a nice reason. But anyway, it was quite funny that I went through all that to try and credit the original person who created the tag, and the video didn't exist. So there's no point in crediting the original tag. But I will credit as many people as I can. I'll put up all these different versions of the video because I think it's quite interesting, and you can discover other booktubers this way, which would be nice. And I've rediscovered Jay Shea, so I'm going to look at his stuff again from that. But they've also discovered some more booktubers I didn't know, which is really nice. So anyway, thanks Crystal for putting this up and making me curious and making me want to do this tag, because it's created all this. Right, so anyway, this is a tag that's about your process of choosing books, what you do when you finish the book, that kind of thing. So it's quite an interesting one. So prompt number one is, do you keep a list of the books that you have read? So I didn't until, I don't know, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I started using Goodreads, and I like Goodreads. So since using it, and some people use it for years and years and years, and have all got these different opinions about it, and it's like apparently an occasional controversy over it. But I really like Goodreads. I think it's very clear, really easy to use. I don't think it gives you all the information you could have. So apparently Storygraph gives you a lot more information, which is cool. I wouldn't mind more analysis about the authors that I go to a lot and that kind of thing. But I do like Goodreads, so I'd use that a lot. So that's going to come up again in another question. But that's where I keep my list of what I've read, really. So when I first did it, I spent ages trying to think of all the books I'd read in the past and try and make it accurate. Obviously, it can't be that accurate because I'm old and I've read many books, but it's as accurate as I can make it. So I tried to remember the stuff that I read as a kid, some of the things I read as a teenager, some of the things I read in my 20s and my 30s, blah, 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 blah. I think it's pretty accurate. So that's all good. And actually, it's quite a useful thing to think about. What do I want to reread? Is there stuff that in there that I can't even remember much about, but I know I've read it, and that's quite interesting. So there is that as well. So I've been doing that a little bit. And there's a couple of things. I mean, I'm doing so much with these different challenges over the year, but there are 2 sets of books that I do want to reread because of getting reminded about this sometimes and thinking, they're almost distant memories, but really strong memories of the feeling of reading them and how much I loved them. And that's the Sword series by Fritz Lieber and also the Belgariad. So I do want to read those soon. And I've been reading some newer fantasy recently, which I've been really enjoying. But I want to read those kind of formative ones, the ones that really made me love fantasy when I was a teenager. So I do want to reread those. But yeah, so keeping a list of the books I've read is quite useful from that point of view, as well as just tracking what is your habits and have you read, you know, because I wanted to read more than I was reading. It's quite nice to see if that's happening or not. But I don't push myself in a crazy way, so I get depressed about it. But I do like to know how much I've read, so I can just sort of make a very gentle, humble judgment on it and not, you know, not have a go at myself. So number 2 is, what stats do you record? So I use Goodreads. I don't really record any extra stats. So I basically, the stats I'm recording is whatever that gives me. So you do get an average page count at the end of the year, and you get what the longest book was, what the shortest book was. But ultimately, it just tells you what the books are that you've read, which is fine. I don't know if I'd want more stats. Do I want more stats? Some people like to look at, apparently Storygraph gives you what style of book, as in what mood the book puts you in, and it gives you a little pie chart about that, which is kind of interesting. Never even thought of wanting that, but apparently that's a thing. I don't know if I'd want that really. So yeah, I don't know. It might be interesting out of curiosity, but nothing more than that. The third prompt is, do you give star ratings? So I do give star ratings, but I do find it frustrating a little bit that it's out of 5, because I do think if it was out of an even number, then I could go straight down the middle. Because sometimes I feel like, well, it was okay, but it wasn't particularly good or particularly bad, and then I'd want to go, in the case of Goodreads, 2.5, but you can't put 2.5. So yeah, you have to make a decision. You know, is it good or bad? You know, you either go 3 and say you're actually saying it's good, or you're going 2 and saying it's bad, because 2 seems quite harsh. I mean, I think I've got to really not like it to give it a 2. But then sometimes I'd rather give it a 2.5 than a 3. So yeah, I do wish that it was a even number. But you know, star ratings are star ratings. It's not that important. But I do give them because they're quite easy things to give. If if you finished it, quickly nip on there and give a star rating. It doesn't take too much time. If you haven't got time to write a review, then that's cool. Prompt number 4: do you review books? So it depends on when I finish it. If I finish it and I'm in a rush and I want to get on with my life and I don't want to particularly dwell on it, I won't. But sometimes I do think, I want to just put just a 4 or 5 line review, just a quick thing. Doesn't go into too much detail. It's not a proper review you do if you were a, professional or semi-professional. It's just something to aid someone's idea about if they wanted to read it, if they want to read that, and if they wanted to be influenced. But it's not a really full-on review. Certainly not as in-depth as what I try to do with the videos when I video it, and I do like a 10-minute video on here. I try and be a little bit more informative and I mean, I did that. How long was it? It was about half an hour review of Razorblade Tears, and that was a bit of rambling as well, but that was me trying to give over the experience of reading it, which, I don't know if that was successful or not. But those reviews, I do try and make more use out of the video format. So my review of Flowers for Algernon and I Am Legend are definitely more in-depth, but they're also more in-depth than the written reviews I put on Goodreads, which I think are useful, but, they are quite short and to the point. So yeah, I do sometimes do that. Well, I often do that, I'd say. I'd often do it, but not particularly long and in-depth reviews that you wouldn't do them. You wouldn't do a review like that professionally, but yeah, I do review books. Question number 5: where do you put your finished books? That's a good question. They're kind of different places. Some of them are on my main sort of go-to place for books here. So I'll still like to keep Children's Time safe. And I've got those 2 Nicholas Eames books that I love to death around here. Somewhere Dark Matters at the behind bit. It's double-breasted, and there's a bunch of books that I really rate that I've still got to hand if I want to use them for a video, or it's just easy to find if I need them, if I want to lend them out or something like that. And I have got most of the bit over there, I've got like a little bedside table. Most of those are unread, but there's a few in there that I've read. And I've got a little chest of my all-time favourite books as well, that aren't all of my all-time favourite books, but it's a chest full of them So there's that. I've got that as well. Most of this thing right next to me here is a couple of boxes and a couple of piles of books I want to get to quite quickly, even though that is also true for that. But I guess most of the books I've read are in the loft. So there's hundreds of books in the loft that are books I've read. So I am going to try and thin them out, which is an answer to another prompt here. But yeah, that kind of answers the question. Prompt number 6 is, how do you pick your next book? So that's a variety of different things. Sometimes it can be quite instinctive, so I'll see it on the shelf. I mean, literally, I just picked this one up. I got this for Christmas, and I picked this up, and I thought, oh my god, I really need to read this because I keep hearing how great it is. And if I'd have picked this up, or I saw it at the point where I was just about to read something else, I might have picked this instead. So that can happen. And obviously, this is one I've got, which is the later part of Ray Bradbury's catalogue. So I'm going to read that at the end of my Ray Bradbury deep dive. So there's some specific kind of books that are relevant to certain times. And there are some books like Cage of Souls here, and like these ones here, that I'm so frustrated I haven't got to yet. So I really need to get to these. Oh, and that. Yeah, these are just... I can't believe I haven't read Upgrade, which is just ridiculous. I need to read this because I really like Blake Crouch. So I need to read that. And I really need to read this because I was so excited about the plot that I need to read it. And I still haven't read it. So again, you know, how do you pick your next book? I need to keep these things in mind when I pick it. And again, it's another example of that. It's things that have just been... on my TBR list, essentially, that I'm not getting to, and it was released last year, which isn't quite as immediate as the others, but it's still something that's been sitting there for a while. So this is where I know there are certain books I'm reading for challenges, and there's certain books that I need to, like, for example, I know that I'm going to get to this soon, because it's a nice thing to read that I've been trying to get to for a while, and it'd be nice to get that in my 25 books read what you own thing. So I know I'm going to get to that soon. But yeah, now and again I'll just see something on a shelf and go, nah, I keep meaning to read this, haven't read it yet. I haven't read Bearhead yet, and I love Dogs of War, and that's like a sequel to Dogs of War, so I really need to read Bearhead as well. There's so much I could read. That's a sequel to Vicious, which is really good as well. I need to read that. And there's obviously the other books of the Expanse. There's so many books that I need to get to. Oh. But yeah, so it's a little bit random, but it's also, I'm aware that I'm doing challenges as well, so it could be various things like that. Did that make sense? Prompt number 7, do you have any rituals when you finish? So when I finish, I do tend to try and collect my thoughts for a moment. So I have a little pause, and I try not to just jump into another book straight away. So I give myself at least half an hour to clear my mind, maybe write a few notes down if I'm going to review it. I don't review every book I read on here, but it might be something that I think I'm going to quickly mention it and say something about it. So I might write something down if I'm going to say just a little thing about it, just a quick response or something like that. And I definitely try and get to Goodreads and remember to change the information on that, but I've been a bit bad on that lately. If I might say something on Instagram, but again, I'm not using Instagram as much as I'd like, so I might do that more. And yeah, there's not a lot of rituals really. I mean, where I put it, I tend to put it either on a pile to go up in the loft, or I'll put it back up here, where, you know, usually where I got it from. I might do that. So yeah, not a lot of rituals really. You know, I mean, ritualistically, I make a cup of tea every half an hour. So you can call that a ritual if you like. Talking of which. So the last prompt is to tag some people. So I'm going to tag a few people I don't tag very often. So I know I did this last time. I'm going to tag Michael Cummins again. He's probably already done it. This is a old tag, by the way. This has been going on for years. So I'm going to tag Michael Cummins. I'm going to tag Katie Books. I'm going to tag Brandy from Booklectic. I'm going to tag... He might have done this already. but I'm going to tag Sean D. Stanfast. And if Mark from Book Time with Elvis has already done it, I apologise, but I'm going to tag you as well. And I'm going to tag Spread Book Joy as well. So Jack from Spread Book Joy again. I think I did that last time as well. And one more that I don't think it's done it, or I haven't seen do it. I haven't seen Vin from Revenant Reads do it, so I'm gonna tag him as well. So those ones I'm tagging. I hope this was interesting. And so the first thing I've done, this is a bit similar to the Pet Peeves one I've already filmed and not put up yet, which I was tagged in by Mark from Book Time with Elvis. So I'm going to watch that one again, and if it's too similar, then I might just send a message to Mark and say, wow, this is really similar. So, and there were moments in that video that I just sort of paused for ages. Well, I'd have to re-edit it, so maybe this can be a good replacement. So the Pet Peeves tag might be too similar. I don't know, I'll have a look, I'll watch it again. But in the meantime, thanks Mark for tagging me. I wasn't tagged for this, I just saw Fiber Artsy, I saw Crystal do it, and I thought I'd just join in. And it is an old tag, so lots of people have done it. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. See you later. Bye.